So one thing I learned, there's actually a few things I learned from this. It was actually pretty interesting watching this video. I watched it like 6 times just to make sure I got everything right and remembered everything accurately. So like Bartlett says at one point that memories are not accurate snapshots. So you can't really rely on solely what this person remembers, right? You can't just go in there and expect them to remember every single detail of a certain situation. It's going to be, they're going to remember this or that, you know? And then there's also sometimes where the person remembers something happening, and when they're speaking out loud, and another thing pops up in their head, like, oh yeah, and this happened too. And it like can jump out of order. So it's not going to be accurate. Another thing is how questions, depending on how the leading question is asked, can depend on the answer you get from the eyewitness, right? So like one thing he said was, did the car smashed into the other car, right? But if you said the car hit the other car, it's giving two different vibes, two different things. Another thing is that something in my face. Anxiety has a lot to do with what goes on around you, what's going on around you when this is when something is being placed, when all of this was taking place and the eyewitness was in the situation they were in. Like for me, for example, I have to testify in a few weeks for the robbery I was in September, and there's a few things I don't remember, and if I do remember it, it's very vague. I do will say that like having video evidence, because it was at the restaurant I work at, having the videos to remember some of the stuff helps a lot, because there was a point in time where I don't remember being locked in the office with two of the three guys by myself. One of the girls that was with me, she was out in the in the kitchen area, and I was in the office. I don't remember any of that at all. I remember the gun. I remember the colors of certain outfits. I remember one guy was in red and another guy had white gloves, and that's what we call him because he was never caught, is white gloves. That's the only way we remember these people. I could remember their voices, but I could not tell you their faces, because when they caught me coming around a corner. One caught me right here, and then the gun was in my face instantly. So I remember the gun. I could tell you what color it was, but I could not tell you their faces. I can tell you their voices, but I couldn't tell you the design on their outfits, none of that. I just remember the gun, and that comes into play with the whole, if someone comes in with a bloody pin that they just killed someone with, and then someone else comes in with a bloody knife that they just killed someone with, you're going to remember the knife, but you're going to remember what the person that had the pin is wearing, because you're going to look at the pin and be like, oh, it's just a pin. But you're going to look at the knife and be like, oh crap, that's a murder weapon. That's the pin. Your eyes are going to be solely on that knife, not the pin, because it's so tiny, and it, like, you look at a pin and you don't think it's a murder weapon. So that was also very interesting, and how like your anxiety, when it's low, you're not as observant. So you're not aware of everything going on in your surroundings. When it's medium, you're more aware, you're more in tune with everything going on around you. You're looking around, you're more observant, everything like that. But when it's high, your stress levels and anxiety is so high that you're only focused on one sole thing. Like, for example, my life's traumatic. But here's another example. When I was in the robbery, I remember sitting on the ground, zip tied on the floor, and my main focus was watching the cameras and seeing what the other two, because they had one person in the room with us after the other two had left the room when I was in there by myself. They had one person in the room with us, and I remember just watching the cameras, looking at what they're doing, and then my focus turning to the cops. But I could not keep focus on every single thing going on at that time. My mind was just everywhere and anywhere, and my stress levels was so high. So that's also another thing. Another thing I also learned from this whole video was that you could not see something when you're being the eyewitness, but if you hear someone else say, oh yeah, I saw a green crown laying on the table, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, then there was a green crown, even though you never saw it. You never saw that green crown, but because someone else saw it, you instantly saw it in your head. In your mind, you think you saw it. And what other eyewitnesses see, if you hear what they see before you go on the stand, you're probably going to say exactly what they say. And it's just your brain telling you to say that because they saw it. So you think you should see it since y'all were in the same place, same time at this, and like everything went down at the same exact time together. So yeah.